Hello, and welcome back to Beyond the Byte. My name is Hafez. I'm your host, and it is good to be back. As if you've been following the show for a while, I have been gone for about 2 months since the last episode with Adam Brous, and this episode is going to be a little bit different. It's just me talking to you from my holodeck, letting you know about what I've been up to, what's going on with Beyond the Byte, and where we're at. So consider this a half season 1 finale, season 2 opener, short status update, but I'm back. Now, the first question that comes to your mind, I'm sure, is, well, Mo, now that you're back, where have you been? What have you been up to for the past 2 months? And I have actually been very, very busy, working very, very hard, but I did take a short break shortly after the Adam Brous episode, after the episode that Professor Adam Brous. I'll talk about that later, but that episode really ended on a very, very tough note. If you've been watching the show for a while, you know that the show is all about technology and it's about where we're headed and the ethics of tech. And oftentimes that's going to be exciting when we're talking about things like robotics and virtual reality and augmented reality. But when we're talking about ethics, every once in a while, we're going to run into episodes where we're going to talk about the ugly side of tech. And we'll talk about it later. But when it comes to the coming wave, the episode with Adam Brous ended on a very tough note because we were talking about the post-labor economy. And it just, it was one of those episodes that was heavy. And so I took a short break and I really needed it. I needed time to recharge, reflect, breathe. I needed time to really get my head straight. And don't get me wrong, it was season 1. We dove in, we did a lot of stuff. It was deep, it was inspiring. It had some heavy moments. And I really just wanted to take time from that and come back fresh. So, as I mentioned, today's episode is going to be part reset, part reflection, and also talk about the next chapter of Beyond the Byte. So, without further ado, let's dive right in. So let me talk about the month off that I took. Well, what did I do during the break? One of the first things that I spent a lot of time doing during the break was reading. I spent a lot of time reading. Now, reading, I want to talk a little bit about reading because we read a lot these days, whether it's news, tweets, articles. There's a lot of information coming at us nowadays, lots of knowledge, but it's all short form content. And this time around, when I said I didn't read tweets. I didn't read the news. I read books. I read a lot of books. And I spent a long time reading books. I mean, I would be sitting there for hours on end reading books, one book after the other. And I don't know when the last time that you've actually sat down and decided to simply spend time focusing with a book. But if you haven't, I highly recommend you do that. I think this is one of those things that if we have to worry about something in the future beyond technology, it's how technology is going to affect some of these habits that are really important, habits of daily reading. And again, I'm not talking about reading from a digital screen. I'm not talking about reading a lot of articles. I'm talking about sitting there with a book, wrestling with the ideas, having a conversation with the author. That is something that I think is not as popular as it used to be, to say the least. Not a lot of people are doing it. And those who are the ones that are getting ahead. And I really wanted to get back to that. And I wanted to go and really spend long periods of time doing immersive readings, right? It's like a workout for your brain. And you have to remember, in the world that we live in today, we have this digital overload situation where we're constantly bombarded with digital content, whether it's through Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or news feeds or Twitter. And it really is kind of creating a sense of brain rot, not to even talk about, what AI is doing, but this idea of we don't sit with long form content a lot, as often as we should. We don't sit there and read books for long periods of time as often as we should. And I think that is one of those skills and daily habits that we need to bring back. And It's honestly a break from this overstimulation and this dopamine economy that we live in. Short form content is truly rewiring our brains, and I think the more that we end up spending with short form content, and not spending enough time with sitting and grappling with an idea for a long period of time, it is going to slowly erode at our intelligence, at our ability to focus. And so that's something that I think we really do need to get back to. And I did. I spent a lot of time sitting there in stillness, in deep thought, focusing on the book that I'm reading, letting my imagination fly with the ideas that came from the book. And I read a whole bunch of books, and I don't want to go through all of them, but I want to talk about two of them specifically that stood out. And the first book that that really stood out for me was called Dawn of a New Everything by Jaron Lanier. And it was a fantastic book. Jaron Lanier is one of the pioneers of virtual reality. He's done a lot of work, and this book was really great. It was very heartfelt. It was from his perspective, and it talked about the advent of virtual reality and augmented reality, but also really kept the human aspects of it at its core. That's one of those things that I loved about that book, is that it wasn't just about the tech and the coming wave and what virtual reality promises and where what its origins were like and where it's at today and the hope for the future, but really it also dove deep into the human aspects of that technology. The other book that I loved, besides Jaron Lanier's, that was also similar but different, was Our Next Reality by Dr. Louis Rosenberg and Alvin Graylin. And it's really also a deep dive into virtual reality and augmented reality and how it will shape our world. But it also, likewise, like Jaron Lanier's book, did something very interesting, which it didn't just talk about the tech. It talked about how that tech will affect us human beings, how it will affect society, the good and the bad. Something interesting that they did in the book was that oftentimes in almost every chapter, talking about how this tech will apply in healthcare, how it will apply in, in entertainment, et cetera, Dr. Rosenberg would take one side of the equation and Alvin Graylin would take the other side, and they would kind of weigh out the pros and cons. And so it was a really, it was both fascinating, but also cautionary. And both books did a great job. And of course, we've had Dr. Rosenberg on our podcast before, and he's a very, very incredible human being, very, very intelligent, very forward thinking, and he's doing some really great stuff. And reading that book, in addition to Dawn of a New Everything, really gave me time to reflect on the state of virtual reality and augmented reality, where it's at. I've already was fascinated by it. I mean, I've always been fascinated with VR and AR. It's a technology that I've played with, at a young age. Actually, at one point, I had a nonprofit. I co-founded a nonprofit with a scuba diving friend of mine, and the nonprofit was called Discovery Deep. And we used to go underwater and map underwater sites, using photogrammetry techniques, and we would then create 3D models. And then we would turn those 3D models into virtual environments that you could dive. And it was a very, very cool project. One of our coolest ones was we mapped the U-352, which is a German World War II U-boat off the coast of North Carolina. And it was an awesome project. I mean, the ability to allow people who aren't divers, scuba divers, to be able to just, instead of putting on a, $1,000, scuba diving rig and have to, and be trained and be able to know how to, do the procedures for diving and coming up safely, you could just put on a headset worth $200-$300 and you can virtually dive this U-boat. That was a very, very cool concept. It was a very cool project, and I think that there's a lot of room there. And virtual reality and augmented reality continue to get better and better with time. As we see now, actually, MetaQuest is releasing the augmented reality headsets, or they're actually, the glasses, and partnerships with Oakley and Ray-Ban. And of course, the Apple Vision Pro, they just came out with a new version of it. MetaQuest 3 is a phenomenal device. Actually, our next episode is going to talk a lot about the metaverse and VR and AR. But those two books really were wonderful because they did not just focus on the tech, but on humans and how we're going to coexist with that. And this is what Beyond the Byte is all about. I mean, if you've been following the show, I talk a lot about the human machine collaboration playbook, which is how humans and machines are going to collaborate moving forward, whether that's with AI or when we talk about, digital worlds, the metaverse, virtual reality, and augmented reality. There really is a playbook that's being written right now about how humans and machines are going to coexist into this new reality and how they're going to work with each other and help each other. And where do you draw the line? We talk a lot about that. We talked a lot about that in the last season of the podcast. But regarding, this concept of sitting and reading books and focusing and really using our minds, the insight here is that stillness reveals connections that constant motion hides. If you ever watch the movie Jurassic Park, there's the line where he's like, "Oh, the T-Rex's the T-Rex's vision is based on movement. So if you stand still, he won't see you." We are, as humans nowadays, move around a lot. There's a lot of ideas floating around. We deal with a toxic overload of digital information, and the world is moving so fast, and technology is moving so fast, and you feel like you have to race to keep moving with it. But when you stop and you sit still and you focus, you really do begin to reflect and connect ideas in ways that you might not have connected them before. And that's why I believe that reflection time is like a hidden superpower in the age of AI. It's not about moving fast, but moving slow with intention. And this is where, the concept of stillness, of reflection, of slowing down, of doing things slowly, and taking time and giving yourself time to think and absorb are really going to serve you very, very well into the future. And I can tell you right now, just sitting and reading these books and reflecting on them really, really gave me perspective and reminded me that we really need to spend more time, focusing and in stillness and in reflection and reading. And I encourage all the viewers and listeners to do the same. So speaking of stillness and taking time and recharging, besides reading books, I also did something else. I recharged underwater. I recharged in one of the places that I truly find stillness, tranquility, and peace. And now another thing that viewers may already know about me or not, I mentioned scuba diving when I talked about the virtual reality experience of the 352. But I love scuba diving. I'm not an active instructor, but I love to teach, and diving is my real mental getaway. So I was overseas. And I took a week to scuba dive in the Red Sea, which I hadn't done in a while. And my goodness, it was amazing. I mean, it always is. If you've never gone scuba diving, I mean, everybody's heard of it, but if you've never experienced it, I want you to imagine this, right? You've all seen oceans, seas. You look and the water is calm from up above, or maybe there's waves, but it's mysterious below. Well, with scuba diving, once you go underneath those waves, under that calmness, there's life, there's beauty, there's colors, there's movement. You are engulfed in a world that is completely unlike our own, where you float and you see it's teeming with life and coral reefs, and everything's slow and sound works differently. I mean, it does feel like you're in another world. And so for me, diving really is a lot like meditation. It really promotes stillness, and that stillness gives me clarity. And that clarity and stillness and the way that it gives me time to observe. And when you have the regulator in your mouth, you can't talk. So you really are just all about observation and listening and reflecting and thinking. It really does bring a set of a inner balance, I find, underwater. And I'm also reminded when I dive, that technology is here to serve life, not replace it. Diving, one of the things I love about diving is it involves a lot of tech. I mean, just the scuba equipment and the regulator and the diving computer, and it's a geeky hobby because it also involves tech in order to be able to sustain yourself, sustain life underwater. But here's where technology serves life. It is an aid. It is a tool. It helps us explore this world. It doesn't replace the world. Even when I talk about virtual reality and augmented reality and how amazing it is to be able to experience these worlds, these digital worlds all over, they're wonderful. But nothing beats the immersion of being underwater and having 360-degree views and being able to move in all sorts of direction. And you're practically flying. I mean, you're floating, but you're neutrally buoyant, so you can go wherever. It feels like zero G. This is one of the reasons why astronauts, train underwater in the neutral buoyancy lab in Texas. It really is it feels like a zero G environment, but it's amazing. And the tech there really does allow us to explore this world. Speaking of diving, I'm actually, I want to announce something. I don't normally do this on this podcast, but I'm going to start doing that. I am going to start leading impact diving trips in 2026, starting in 2026. And given that I have so much knowledge of the Red Sea, I've dove there many, many, many times. I'm a scuba instructor myself, and a technologist, and an environmentalist, and somebody who cares about our planet. I really do believe that we can make some amazing trips happen where we're not just diving and seeing these wonderful places that are paradise-like, but we can also work on these trips to, on marine conservation efforts, on AI-driven marine conservation efforts. So how do we collect data on these trips? I really want to empower everybody on these trips to be a citizen scientist and realize that it's not a hard world to break into. Actually, the trip itself, you'll get a device that allows you to collect data, and we'll have workshops on the trip on how to utilize that data. We'll have workshops on digital storytelling, on how to use 360 and virtual reality to tell stories, how to use the data that you collect to tell stories that will actually help give back to the environment. So we really want to collect marine data, analyze it with AI, tell stories that drive action, and we're going to do it in the Red Sea, which is again, if you've never been, it's beautiful. It's beautiful reefs, beautiful wrecks, full of ancient wonders. And this trip is going to be about bringing together technologists and explorers and environmentalists in a trip where we can all dive together and see the splendor of the Red Sea. But at the same time, be working to contribute to the environment, and doing some really, really cool stuff there, and learning some new skills, and really giving back and helping our planet. For me, diving is a metaphor for consciousness and curiosity, right? Like this idea of when you're scuba diving, you really do take time to sit there and observe and be conscious of your surroundings, but it also rewards curiosity. The underwater world is full of wonder, and I've had many experiences where, I could have led with fear, but I chose to lead with curiosity. I know that the ocean and being underwater to many people feels so scary. I can't tell you how many times people tell me, oh my goodness, just the thought of being in this big, wide, whole ocean with all of these sharks in it and these creatures is very, very scary. But, once you dip your head below the surface and you see and you open your eyes with wonderment and curiosity, you're going to find that it's not so bad. It's actually an incredibly rewarding experience. I love seeing sharks. They're not easy to find, actually. And we want to respect them when we're in the water. But I say lead with curiosity. That is going to be so rewarding. I'm going to diverge a little bit. I'm trying to build up a metaphor here, the scuba metaphor, because I think that scuba diving in the ocean is a lot like diving deep into AI, right? So just like the Red Sea, on the surface, there's beauty there, but there's also mystery. There's it's so, there's so many possibilities, but also so many possibilities. And so versus, of course, there's the hidden depth, right? Or think of AI like the tip of an iceberg, right? The iceberg, most of it is all underwater, but you have to go underwater to actually see all of what's contained in that depth. And season 1 of the podcast was all about deep diving into AI, just above the surface level hype, right? AI is so hyped. We just, all this past year, agentic AI was the name of the game, and it was the word that everybody talked about and stuff. But AI is so much more than that, right? It's not just about the surface level hype. There's a lot to it, and this is what we wanted to explore, and what we explored in season 1, which is, and we'll talk about that. But it was more than just about the surface level hype. We really went deep on what AI is, what it isn't, what it can do, what's important, and also what it means for humanity. And it's really been important for me. And I think that this is one of the reasons why I love kind of using scuba diving as a metaphor when I talk about leading with curiosity. I'll give you another example. One of my favorite experiences that I ever had was I was diving this shipwreck that I was one of the people that was involved in covering its sinking when it first sunk as an artificial reef called the JJF in North Carolina. And we were diving it several years later, and I hadn't been to it since it sunk. But I was, the captain told me, Captain Purefoy, he basically was like, look, the reef has actually grown, and it has, the artificial reef has actually burgeoned and blossomed, and it's interesting. And so I was interested to check it out, but I didn't really care about penetrating the shipwreck again because, I'd done that already, and it was still kind of a relatively new shipwreck, only a couple of years. What did interest me was he told me about the fact that an octopus had taken residence nearby on the port side of the ship. And so I with my dive buddy Enrique, I was like, look, I really don't care about I don't want to say I don't care about the ship. I just didn't care about penetrating the shipwreck, going inside it. I really just wanted to go find that octopus. I love octopus. So, we went, and I don't know, the ship sits at around 80, 90 feet, something like that. So we only have like 20 minutes underwater because of the air tank. It runs faster, runs out faster when you're deeper. So we only had about 20 minutes to really do anything. So I brought my camera, he brought his camera, we went down, and we found the octopus right away. And of course I was really, really curious. Conservationists may get upset at this, but here's what I did. I started taking some pictures, videos, etc. But I wanted to get the octopus to come out of its hole gently. And so I took my, there's a kind of a little measuring stick that we use, and we also use it to anchor ourselves so that we don't move in current. I used the stick, I kind of put it there for him to play with and to touch. And the octopus, sure enough, reached out with one of its tentacles and touched it. And I swear, when I saw it do that, it kind of recoiled a little bit. And I had a feeling that maybe that stick was cold. Was like, it was a metal stick, so maybe it would have been cold. And this is the questionable part, and I understand. So, I might get some flack for this, but I wanted to connect with this octopus. So I put the stick away, and I wasn't wearing gloves on my hands. You're not supposed to wear gloves because actually wearing gloves is bad for the it's bad because then you're much more likely to touch underwater environments and do all sorts of not cool stuff. And gloves empower us to be more exploratory, but I wasn't wearing gloves. And so I decided to try something. I just put my hand right there in front of the hole, in front of where the octopus's tentacle had reached out just a few seconds before with that stick. And I kind of waited. And sure enough, the octopus reached out with one of its tentacles and touched my finger and started to sort of, kind of suction onto my finger a little bit, just a little, very gently. It was very cool. It was a very interesting experience. Just incredible. It was just so incredible to be literally in physical contact with this octopus in a very, very cool way. And I kind of tried to pull my hand a little bit, tugged a little bit. It tugged back and it kind of pulled me a little bit into its hole. And that experience, incredible, but also scary. Absolutely. I mean, look, it's a creature. It can bite me. It could do all sorts of things. But I didn't let the fear take hold. I led with curiosity. And my thing was, I was like, look, I don't mean this octopus any harm. I don't think it means me any harm. So I kind of just chilled out, and sure enough, eventually it let go. That was just a connected experience I had with this octopus. I'll never forget it. And nobody was hurt. I wasn't hurt. The octopus wasn't hurt, but it was really, really an incredible experience. And I thank God for that experience, because I could have easily been too scared to do it or to play with that octopus, but instead I was just curious, and I knew I wasn't going to harm it, and I didn't try to poke it or prod it. I just kind of it was a moment for us to connect. And I think that that's one of the things I love about exploration and scuba diving, and similar with when it comes to AI and tech, is that we want to be able to really explore the tech thoughtfully and ethically, and do so with curiosity, not fear, because the tech reflects what we put into it. If we lead with fear, it will be something to be feared. And if we lead with curiosity, if we lead with goodness, if we lead with intention, with using it to create value, to help people, to build applications and products that ultimately serve humanity and do good for humanity and do good for the planet, I think AI has the potential to, and technology in general has the potential to really take us to wonderful places as a society. And so this is, bringing it back now full circle to AI. I've been really, as you know, attending conferences, giving workshops, giving talks, giving lectures, and talking about AI. And I've also noticed that a lot of people nowadays are doing AI strategy workshops, and that's great. I'm really happy to see that. But here's my only thing. I believe that AI strategy and AI and tech strategy, but it's not about prompts or productivity hacks or learning, how to use ChatGPT. True AI strategy involves understanding the AI, the tech, the systems behind it, how they work, and not just, not surface level understanding, not just buzzwords, but really understanding how the tech works. And then the strategy part, really understanding strategy. Right, and that's so those are the two core competencies. Right, a true AI strategy involves systems and humans. It's that simple. Systems and humans. How do we actually use the tech? How do the humans use the tech to create something meaningful and valuable? And so those two core competencies are the AI literacy, the how it works, and then the strategic thinking. Right, how people behave, and I think those two things together are what allow you to put together something really, really meaningful for people. And for me, I'm a technologist. I've been in the tech world for 17 years. The last 7, I was building global infrastructures for Fortune 500 companies and AI products that enhance the internet and sped the internet and stuff. So that's the tech part. I geek out about it all the time. I love the tech. I've been a technologist ever since I was a kid. But the strategy part, strategy really is a mindset. And you need to understand truly what strategy means in order to really be able to bring it to AI. And strategy for me comes down to long-term thinking. It's learning how to deal with people. It's learning how to play this game. And game is really the interesting concept here that I want to talk about, because gaming is one of my favorite hobbies. As a matter of fact, I don't know if the viewers know about this, if you all know about this, but I've used to play chess ever since I was a kid. I have a love of board gaming that I fostered over the years, and to this day, me and a group of friends and colleagues and work colleagues and stuff get together for these bi-weekly sessions of a game called Twilight Imperium. And if you've never heard of this game, it's think of it like this. It is if Catan, which is a very popular board game about resource management and stuff, and Risk had a baby in space. This game is deeply thematic. It requires diplomacy. It requires strategy. It requires long-term thinking. It requires dealing with your neighbors. And it's really great. It's a mix of politics and alliances and economics and betrayal, and it all takes place over 6 to 8 hours. And it's a really, really, really phenomenal game. So think long-term strategy, anticipation, adaptation, seeing the big picture, collaboration, competition, all of that. And this is where I want to bring it down full circle. I'm both a student and a master, or trying to be a master of strategy. And these strategy games really mirror leadership and AI thinking, systems, ethics, consequences. So the parallels between this concept of galactic politics and strategy and technology strategy and AI strategy really, really come full circle. And this is very, very important when we talk about building AI strategy and building foundational AI literacy and understanding, and how do we actually use it to invoke change in the workplace, in organizations, et cetera. And speaking of strategy and AI, strategy really is a whole mindset that you need to adopt for AI and leadership. And besides the honing of strategy through gaming, through dealing with people, through understanding how to create alignment, through managing risks, all of that, strategy is also about how do you actually create demand in uncontested market space. And a great book, actually, that I want to mention that I also read during my time off was Blue Ocean Strategy, which talked exactly about that. It talked about how to create strategy that allows you to tap into uncontested market space, talking about blue oceans versus red oceans, and how red oceans are basically contested market space where you have the known players and known customers, and you're all competing for the same kind of pie, versus blue ocean strategy, which allows you to innovate and to build products for customers that are outside of that ecosystem and create whole new red oceans, really. And this, again, it speaks a lot about how organizations can use technology to build their own strategy, build their own systems, rethink what they're doing with their organizations in this new AI way of doing things. And it does take a lot of thinking differently about how to solve problems, how to solve customer problems, how to solve business problems using AI. So the parallels there between, when we talk about strategy and how to use that in technology and how to build that AI strategy for companies, all of this does come from a very finely honed, skill set that is very important for anybody who's speaking to you about AI strategy. So speaking of AI and strategy and gaming and all of that, I've actually noticed that there are a lot of workshops nowadays that are teaching AI strategy, lots of AI workshops, and I'm glad to see that. But it's also important to understand that AI strategy involves more than just prompts or productivity hacks, right? True AI strategy, as I mentioned, requires understanding systems, and it requires understanding the humans using those systems. So there are two core competencies that are required whenever you're building an AI strategy workshop. Number one is the AI literacy piece, the actual how it works. So understanding how AI works, understanding the history, understanding the terminology, more than just the buzzwords, but really how the tech actually works. And learning how to use it, of course. And then there's the strategic thinking, right? The strategy part. The strategy requires learning how these systems operate, how people behave, how we can actually use these systems to achieve the goal and the result we're trying to do, right? That's strategic thinking, right? You have a goal and you want to figure out how to achieve that goal in the most effective, most resource, conservative manner that allows you to get real ROI from not a lot of effort. And you want quick ROI also, ideally, or you don't want that ROI to take 5 years, 10 years. You want to be able to see some of the results of your AI strategy pay off right away. And so, as I mentioned, this is something that I have been working on for years and years. This comes directly from my experience. And this is one of the reasons why I built out what is called the AI Foundations Workshop. Now, this AI Foundations Workshop, we've already had one cohort that was very, very successful, but it is built to be practical, to teach, to be hands-on, to teach not just how to use AI, but how it actually works. It allows you to learn how to build and train your own models. It helps you really understand the ethics of building these systems and the real-world deployment use cases. And the mission really here is to create AI leaders, not just AI users. Right? I have a lot of people who, whenever I ask them about using AI in their organizations, they say, "Well, yeah, we use AI. We've deployed tool X or tool Y. We've built our own. We have a GPT that answers questions and does all of this stuff. But none of that stuff is really. You're just using AI here. You're not really necessarily building it in a way that helps your organization achieve the mission, achieve the values that they create, make sure that the people in your organization are also, again, not just AI users, but AI leaders. They know how to build with it and how to apply it. So this AI Foundations workshop is it's really foundational. I mean, it is great for organizations. It's one of the reasons I am offering it. Also, in 2 weeks, I will be giving this AI Foundations workshop at the Tower Club. It will be on Monday, the 24th. It's a whole day affair. It's going to have, networking in the beginning, breakfast, lunch, goes all the way into the afternoon. And then there'll be even an optional kind of happy hour component afterwards so that the cohort can get together and network and get to know each other and learn from each other and work with each other. But this all-day workshop, I'm offering it again here in November. And if you want to really know not just using ChatGPT, not just using AI, but actually how it works to build real confidence, to be able to talk the talk and walk the walk when it comes to AI, when you walk into a boardroom, I really highly recommend this AI workshop. Click the link in the description. You'll see it there to sign up. You can come join live in person, or you can join virtually, so from anywhere, and you get a virtual ticket. You can have access to the live workshop, and you'll be able to ask questions and follow along with us. And there's also a version of the course that's asynchronous. It's an on-demand course, so that's another option you can see there if you are unable to attend on that day. I'll, of course, be doing more of these workshops in the future, but if you can't attend, I highly recommend that you join the waitlist, and you'll see the links in the description there. Now, I want to spend some time reflecting on season 1 of Beyond the Byte. These are the conversations that really shaped season 1. And the way I see the past season of Beyond the Byte is that it really was focused on AI as a mirror for humanity, right? What we're building, or what we built with AI, really mirrors what we as humans have been trying to do. And we've explored that in season 1 through the various conversations we had with all the different, change makers, people in the field that are either affecting their industries with AI or are being affected. Their industries are being affected by AI. We dove into all of those conversations, and I really want to take some time on this episode to highlight some of those key moments and guests, and in no particular order. I want to start with one of my favorite episodes was the episode I had with Carrie Cardozo, where we talked about the spiritual side of technology, right? Talking about how when it comes to AI, we are working with unseen forces, right? Invisible forces. And I thought that was a really great analogy when talking about AI, because we oftentimes talk about the black box of AI. And the black box of AI, if you don't know, it's the way these algorithms actually make their decisions. They make them in large, multi-layered neural networks, but we don't really have a really good view or picture of what's happening inside these neural networks. We know that, there's techniques called backpropagation, things like that allow the weights to be adjusted, but we don't actually know how these adjusted weights happen. And that's what we call the black box of AI, and that we don't really know what's happening under the hood, how the systems are making these decisions. And when we think about unseen forces, and we think about the fact that these, AI has the potential to hallucinate and can act in ways we don't fully understand yet, it does. I know it sounds a lot like modern mysticism, but that episode was really, really interesting to explore what AI could be, right? I mean, when we start having digital twins one day, can those digital twins really capture the soul of a person? Can we bring back to life somebody through an AI model? What does it mean if we have AGI or sensing AI? Does that mean that it has a soul? I mean, that episode explored all of that, and it was a great episode. Another wonderful episode we had was with Dr. Louis Rosenberg, where we talked about swarm intelligence. So instead of using AI to do our thinking, we actually do all of the thinking. AI simply connects our ideas together. So it becomes context-aware AI that allows large groups of people to be able to communicate their ideas and try to solve problems while using AI to connect them. And I thought that was just one of the most ethical uses of AI and one of the best uses, because the idea is that when we network as humans, when we network together, we become much smarter than AI, because we're not just using our brains, we're also using our gut instinct, right? We are as Dr. Rosenberg puts it, we're not data points, we're data processors. So by networking all of our individual human data processors together using AI, we can really, really do some amazing things. But that episode also was great because we dove deeper talking about AGI and ASI, artificial general intelligence and artificial superintelligence. And Dr. Rosenberg pointed out the agency risk, right? The idea of as AI begins to whisper in our ears, especially as we start wearing, wearables that have AI models built into them, this idea of us accidentally or even, surreptitiously losing our agency through these AI models is a real risk. So that was a great episode, and we talked about a lot of that. The episode with Seema Alexander, similarly, was great. It was about moving from fear to literacy, about adapting fast. Seema pointed out that AI is bigger than the internet. And as such, organizations really need to get behind this technology and understand how it works and adopt it and truly learn how to learn it and learn how to adopt it rather than fearing it in order to be able to stay on the forefront. Similarly, our conversations with Jamie J and Jeff Hunter were all about AI in the workplace, right? The idea of how do we augment humans, not replace them, what the future of jobs is going to look like, how humans are going to use AI in the future. And we were talking about these AI augmented humans in the workplace. Speaking of augmentation, we had a great episode with Dr. Sven Jansen where we talked about AI in medicine. And Dr. Jensen specifically talked about using AI in radiology. And AI actually is, when it comes to radiology, it is a game changer. Radiology is such an AI-friendly field because it's all about analyzing scans, but you still need humans to actually, put it all together. And so this use of AI has allowed, radiology reports that used to take days to now take seconds, minutes. And that has actually created a greater demand for radiology jobs. And radiologists are some of the highest paid workers in the medicine field. And this actually highlights what we call the Jevons paradox, right? The idea of when something is easier and cheaper to do, we actually don't now use less of it, we consume more of it. So this is how, AI in medicine has allowed radiology to become even more popular. Hospitals are asking for more scans and paying more money because it's become easier, more effective, more reliable. It has become, a much more streamlined way to do it. So, when we talk about AI replacing jobs, this is a great example of no, it's not replacing, it's just changing them. It's changing the jobs. We had other great conversations with people like Carlos Bertoni and Dominic Slauson. Carlos argued that universities must lead the AI literacy revolution and teach ethics, and not just teach AI, but teach how to think, not just what to think, but how to think, and really focus on, things like logical fallacies and understanding how to ask better questions. Similarly, Dominic Slauson talked about how we need to adopt AI ethically, and he is from the University of California at Irvine. Their tool called Zot GPT. It was a great, fantastic tool. We talked all about it. It's an ethical sandbox for students and faculty. Actually, where I teach, Johns Hopkins, we have also built an AI model that we call Hop GPT that's, again, offering a sandbox environment for students and faculty to be able to use AI ethically and effectively and safely. We also had a great conversation with Kaizo Pelascalio, who actually talked about the role of teachers K through 12 as curiosity coaches and how they need to help students learn how to use AI. Similar to how when calculators first came out, teachers would teach students how to add and subtract and divide and multiply, but then we would show them how to use calculators to do that, but they still needed to learn how to actually do the math, but we also guided the use of the calculators. So teachers really are going to be the curiosity coaches for students and helping them adopt AI responsibly, which means they also need to understand AI themselves and to be able to lead the charge and be able to lead the teaching. Another episode we had was with the excellent actor, the amazing heartfelt actor Colin Egglesfield, and we talked about AI in art, specifically in acting and in Hollywood and movies and film and television. And that conversation was all about authenticity versus perfection. The idea that, AI, yes, now we can make movies that have talking heads and, can be in any location, and we can do it with just a text prompt. But these AI actors that we can create dialogue between are never going to have the real chemistry of two humans in a room that feel the energy between each other, that feel the energy of the scene, that can apply their humanity, that can ad-lib certain lines. That authenticity is still solely in the realm of humans, and so that's never going to be replaced. So what we need to think about now is how AI is going to enable us to create art. It's not going to replace art. It's not going to replace what humans do with art. And so I highly recommend you check out that conversation. It was a wonderful conversation and an exploration of how AI is affecting that industry. We also had the episode with Professor Adam Brous. I mentioned we would talk about it. Wow, heavy episode, as I mentioned, all about the post-labor economy. It really confronted this aspect of displacement of how AI is now going after white-collar jobs, and that is kind of a scary thing. And I think, as we mentioned, it's not going to replace jobs. It's just going to transform them. But there's a messy middle that we're going through right now, and that post-labor economy grapples with that messy middle. And Adam had some great ideas about how we can deal with that, but it was definitely a heavy topic, and it highlights just how big this technology is making ripple effects, making changes in our world, in our economy, in the way we work. So it was definitely an episode to check out. We also had great conversations with Laura Fredericks about data integrity, about using blockchain to build trust, and how do we, in the age of AI, we need to be able to verify where data is coming from and where it's going. So this is all about the practical aspects of how we're going to adopt AI responsibly. Speaking of adopting AI responsibly, we had a great conversation with Harriet Pellereau about digital wellness, about avoiding cognitive laziness, and about some of the ways that we need to use technology in a way that keeps us in the driver's seat, that doesn't just atrophy our minds, our analytical muscles, but really allows us to, empowers us to build more and build better. But this aspect of digital wellness and having good digital habits was something that resonated with me on that episode, and it was a great episode to talk about that. We moved from that to the ethicists, the philosophers. We had Enrico Panay, who talked about ethics as efficiency and the cultural contrast in AI across Europe and China and the United States, and really talking about how we need to, ethics is all about strategy and risk mitigation, and now if you're not building ethics into your AI strategy, you're going to end up wasting people's time. You're going to end up doing more harm than good. Similarly, we talked with Paul Gibbons, who talked about the problem isn't AI, it's people. I 100% believe that, tech is tech, but it's how people use that tech, or whether they use it at all, is really the issue. And so we want to make sure that we help adopt AI in a way that keeps humans at the center of it, and also defines the right moral boundaries. I think that's going to be very important as we use AI, because there's, AI doesn't by itself have any kind of moral compass. We are the ones that have to program that. So, there's the age-old problem of the AI that optimizes paperclip making, but if it does so at the expense of natural resources that we humans need to survive, we're not really, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. So AI being a people problem, defining the moral boundaries, that episode was all about what humans need to do in the age of AI to do so, to build AI responsibly. Speaking of humans, and keeping them in the loop and keeping them primary, we had a great episode with Brian Galkey about the importance of human empathy and connection and rediscovering our why. We also had a great episode with Amy Amada about how we can use AI to amplify our empathy through design. Her tool, Roscoe AI, she talked about how that tool has helped transform a lot of aspects of how she does business and even in her personal life. Great episode there as well, an exploration of AI as a coach and as a therapist. And then we actually towards the end of the season, we also had a great conversation with Padmini Soni about the psychophancy bias, right? How AI can be like an echo chamber. It can kind of nod along and agree with everything that we tell it to, even if it's not correct. So it highlights the dangers of what will comfort AI, or when we let AI essentially, validate our ideas, and how important it is actually to ask better questions and to have AI challenge us, not simply go along with what we say. So each of these guests really revealed a truth beneath the surface about AI: human, spiritual, philosophical, And I really appreciated exploring AI from all of the various aspects and the various facets with each and every one of these guests. And this is why Beyond the Byte exists. It's really meant to humanize technology. And I hope that you will go back and revisit each and every one of these episodes, or at least the ones that sound interesting to you. Share them with a friend. There's a lot of golden nuggets of information there towards really understanding what is this new engine that AI is and what it's helping us build. So looking ahead on the frontier of emerging tech, now I really want us to think about, I want us to reflect on how AI is helping us in the future, right? So going from reflection to more towards action. And AI, really, if we've learned anything from the first season, is that AI is not the destination. It is the engine. It's the very engine that will help us build what's coming. And so season 2 is going to posit the question of if AI is this genie that we have let out of the bottle or let out of the lamp, season 2 is going to ask the question, well, what will this genie help us build? And so season 2, I'm very excited to talk about what we're going to be exploring with season 2, but we're going to be exploring now not just AI, but what AI is helping bring in the emerging tech field. So quantum computing, for example, right? Not just a new faster computer or faster chips, but a whole new physics, a whole new way of computing that promises unimaginable power. And AI is helping bring, make quantum computing much more viable. And this will be a singularity moment when we make quantum computing viable. Everything that AI is now doing and transforming is going to be supercharged, and it's going to be incredible. So that's a technology that we want to explore. Our next episode actually is going to be all about virtual reality and augmented reality and extended reality. And that's another topic that I really want to explore a lot more of in season 2, VR, AR, and XR, how it's reshaping education, immersive storytelling. We now see augmented reality glasses hitting the market. We see, Apple and Meta and Microsoft all getting behind VR headsets for education. For what we call spatial computing, the ability to compute, but in a virtual spatial environment. So there's a lot of promise nowadays in that field and a lot of advancement, and AI is going to enable that. One of the ways AI is enabling VR and AR is through world building. Organizations like World Labs that are using AI to allow you to build whole virtual worlds with just a prompt is going to make the ability to build these virtual worlds so much easier, and it's going to unlock VR, in my opinion. So that's something that we're going to be exploring as well. Another topic I'm looking forward to exploring in season 2 is robotics and embodied AI. And drones, right? So not just these analytical engines and chatbots that talk to us, but really tech in motion, right? AI that is in our physical world doing things with us. If you've been kind of checking the news, you'll see that robotics has really become front and center, not just with Elon Musk's and the efforts he's doing with Tesla, but some of these humanoid robots as well. And you're going to start to see a lot more of these humanoid robots hitting the market at even better price points. Drones in warfare, drones in deliveries, drones as surveillance. All of these things are going to be game changers and are going to change society. And I'm looking forward to exploring all of that with you in season 2 of Beyond the Bytes. And not only are we looking at all of that, we are also looking to use all of this new and emerging tech right here on the show. So what I'm looking to do is also build interactive elements for the show, looking to do live audience shows using 360-degree video or 180-degree VR to film some of the shows, and maybe even have a Beyond the Byte meetup in the metaverse. Just a thought. But I really think that the future isn't something to predict. It's something that we build together, and I'm very, very excited about some of the things that we can do with Beyond the Byte. So I want to end with gratitude. I want to thank you, the audience member, for being a part of this journey. I want to reaffirm that what Beyond the Byte is and what Bytewise is, it's all about keeping humanity at the center of technology. So This is my ask for you. I want you to know that this podcast is more than a podcast. It's a movement. And so I want you to join this movement, and I want you to continue to keep this movement alive. And some of the easiest ways that you can do that and help me out and help the podcast out is, first of all, if you're not a subscriber, please, right now, subscribe. Hit subscribe. We got a lot of really great content coming up in season 2. I want you to hit some likes. If you like some of the episodes, if you go check them out and you actually like them, the likes help, and it shows engagement. I really appreciate it. And I also really want to see your comments and your shares. I definitely want to see your comments. When you go back to some of these episodes, if you agree, if you disagree, if you have a point to add, I really would love to see your comments. I read every single one of them. And you can watch us on YouTube. You can listen on Spotify or Apple. You can follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. And I really want you to pass the good word along, pass links, let a friend know. And I want to invite some reflection, right? So just on this episode here, what moment from season 1 resonated with you the most? What was some of your favorite episodes? And I really want you to engage more with the podcast. It's what keeps us going. And I'm very, very excited for this next season. As always, I want you all to stay curious, think ethically, and keep learning. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Beyond the Byte.